Alright, so we got another new chapter, surprisingly, and this is focusing on some of the Neo leaders, which are like the Neo heroes equivalent of S-class heroes. And the two that we're focusing on in this chapter is Raiden and Webigaza. Raiden was actually recently introduced into the manga's continuity. He's like the Yokozuna of that world, but he's so powerful that he's easily like S-class level. I mean, he wouldn't be a Neo leader if he wasn't. And McCoy says that he's the strongest or the best fighter of the Neo heroes or the Neo leaders. And that doesn't mean like he's the strongest, because I don't think he is. I think that just means he's like the best like overall combatant, if that makes sense. I think the strongest is Blue. That's pretty evident. But if there is a ranking to it, which they don't have the way that the S-Class does, he would be top 3, maybe. It really remains to be seen who the definitive second strongest is, but he's a good candidate for it. But anyway, we're seeing more of him highlighted in this chapter. And the last time that we saw him, or at least I think, he actually fought against Puri Prisoner. And it wasn't really much of a fight because Puri was more so protecting like his prison buddies that were with him, also one of them being Hammerhead. He's going to come back into the story because he's kind of important because he ties into the organization. But it was more so showing Raiden that Puri was like a real hero, like a true hero. And that's kind of like a recurring theme actually with the Neo heroes going against the S-Class heroes, because beforehand they just had these preconceived notions that they were like jokers or frauds or whatever. And you know, heroes from the Hero Association in general are true heroes. And another nice little theme that one is playing with here is the reliance of the Neo heroes on their battle suits, which of course the heroes of the Hero Association do not have. And it's more so Raiden, surprisingly, of all of them, that is really reliant on his suit. Like, he constantly praises the suit and contributes a lot of his abilities or his ability as a hero to having the suit on. He even mentions it in the beginning of this chapter because they're like, hey, you know, be careful dropping out of the airplane here. And he's like, I don't need a parachute. I have my battle suit on. And I guess it somewhat goes into having his mobility limited as like a sumo, you know, with their body type, even though he's ostensibly like sub 10% body fat, at least in the manga, kind of like E Honda from Street Fighter. Like, they have these huge rotund bodies, but like little to no body fat on them. But we find out that he's brought his sumo buddies with him, and now he has like his own specific unit of sumo wrestlers from the league that he was in, I guess. And they all have suits as well, and they're all really hyped about the suit as well. They're like, even with our physique, we're able to leap between buildings with ease. So now that we've set up this sumo squad, this is for sure going to come back into play. And I don't know if they're necessarily going to fight against Puri and his prisoners, because they would just get dominated. Not so much Puri, because he's proving himself in the webcomic like he did in the manga. Not so much as a powerhouse, but not necessarily like a weakling. But we see them squaring off against these faux Metal Knight drones, which has been going on for like the last 3 chapters. These guys are just the jobber squad. I mean, that's literally what they are at this point. Or you could think of them as like the gatekeeping jobbers because they'll gatekeep, you know, the lower level heroes, but then they'll just get completely obliterated by like anyone that's S-Class level. Their main purpose here is just to collect data. Like, that's what the organization has just been doing. Giving out these suits to as many people as possible and then having them fight against some of their own creations to see what's powerful and what's not, and just to collect the battle data and further improve things upon that until they can just get to this level of unrivaled power, essentially, so that they can, you know, successfully take over the world. But we can ramble on for a while about that stuff. But we see another named move from Raiden here, pretty cool. 1,000 spot giant heavy cannon. He just obliterates these things. And before we move on from Raiden, it's just also showing that he is trying to do the right thing, of course, just like most of the Neo heroes. There are some of them that are straight up despicable the way that A is. I mean, there are at least 2 of them that are despicable, but like I've been saying, it's eventually going to get to the point of where they're going to be forced against their will via wearing these suits to fight against the S-Class heroes and maybe even like civilians. But we cut over to Webigaza, and Webigaza is like the Amai Mask of the Neo heroes, essentially. I mean, Amai Mask was the one who begrudgingly, we'll say, inspired her to become a hero. Like 6 months before the Neo heroes Heroes arc started, she was like an idol, the way that My Mask was. And she decided to become a hero as well, but she underwent all of these augmentations through cyborgification to the point of where she's now 71% a cyborg, which is pretty high on the scale. But we see that you can even go as high as like 94, 95, which we've seen with Aramin and Destro, the two quote-unquote enforcers of the Neo heroes that keep them in line. So she's not as powerful as them, but she's still pretty powerful. But it was also said that she had some kind of psychic surgery done on her brain, which is definitely a thing because we're actually finding it out in the manga through that Tsukuyomi group where you can just make espers via surgery. And it was actually already kind of shown to us in the webcomic subtly that one of Fuzzy's bodyguards has like the scar in his head. So I think that means that Fuzzy is for sure the leader of Tsukuyomi, but it also shows that Webigaza is now having her strings pulled by two of the paths of God. One through Tsukuyomi with her psychic esper surgery, and then of course her body being modified via cyborgification. And just like Raiden, she is legitimately trying to do the right thing here. She does want to save people. She just doesn't want to come across as what she's referred to by the cameraman in this chapter as a poster girl. Because when she's viewing the destruction of these robots in the city, she's like, the park I used to play in when I was little is gone. I can't even hear the screaming over the sound of explosions. It's true that I had myself surgically modified and became a Neo hero because I wanted to gain popularity, but I never wanted to see anything like this. I'm thankful that I have this power, and I'll fight with all of my strength for the sake of everyone, for the sake of peace. So this is like a recurring theme. The Neo heroes, while they seem like they don't have the best intentions on the surface, they genuinely do deep down. And also, just like Raiden with Puri Puri Prisoner, Webigaza saw through Child Emperor that the Hero Association heroes aren't so bad, and that they are also fighting for the sake of justice and not just trying to get a paycheck. But aside from that, we're seeing some displays of Webigaza's power, and yeah, she's passing the gatekeeping jobber robot test where she's just, destroying them just as well as everyone else that we've seen so far. I mean, Genos has been the most impressive, but she's, not too shabby herself. And she's doing it rather easy, of course, with some pretty interestingly cool transformations with like her butterfly wings. Like the way that she's able to manipulate energy is unlike we've really seen so far. I mean, it's not too far outside of the norm with the energy projection and stuff, but she also has like heat breath, which is interesting. And then she runs into another monster, which, is also part of the course with the organization, who I believe released these faux Metal Knight robots. They've also been buffing up these monsters and like kind of cyborgifying them as well, like reinforcing them the way that they would humans, or at least just at the minimum putting some kind of microchips into them. Again, like I was saying, all for the purpose of gaining data. And she just one-shots this thing, which is very likely to be a dragon. I mean, it's as big as what a dragon normally would be, so it probably is a dragon, and she's one-shotting it just like Blue one-shotted that dragon monster previously. But coming into the end of the chapter, we see that she comes across the top of this building with these civilians that need to be rescued, and she says, let me take care of the rest of these robots in the area, and then I'll have another Neo hero come save you. So it might lead to some kind of tragedy here, possibly the fact that she's not saving them immediately, or it's just for the sake of her saying this at the end where she says, I will become what Sweet Mask couldn't, the real thing. And it's ironic because she is following the same path as a My Mask. They both are wearing masks at this point, hiding what they truly are. My Mask, truly a monster, and Webigaza not too far off, as she is a cyborg modified Esper at this point, and also reliant on the Neo heroes / organization power supply. Like, she can only do so much, and then she needs to be like replenished, because the cameraman said, like, there's your coolant and your replacement batteries. Without any of these, your body won't be able to keep up. What are you even trying to do? So that's also paralleling to My Mask, because he couldn't really maintain his human form when he was really getting pushed to the limit. I mean, we've seen in the manga, he got stabbed in the eye by Super S, and he had to like play it off the way that he regenerated from that. In the webcomic, it was him getting his arm shot off and shot through the chest by evil natural water, until he eventually ran into that clown monster in chapter 119, and then had to fight him, and that's when he was eventually exposed. So there's more than one kind of parallel here between them, and it's just good writing from one. But that's pretty much it for this one. Let me know what you guys think about this chapter in the comments, and if you liked it, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.